With the Megan Boswell trial having wrapped up, I wanted to go over some final thoughts about the whole ordeal in today's video. Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. Sofa's back there. I'm right here. My name's Paul if you're new to the channel, and if you're not new to the channel, well, guess what? My name's still Paul. Today we're going to go over basically some final thoughts, some overall, bombshell moments, things of this nature about the Megan Boswell trial. Megan Boswell was recently convicted of a plethora of crimes against what took place against her daughter, baby Evelyn. So this happened way back several years ago, not several, like 4 or 5, and was drug on and drug out for numerous years until 2025 recently, when she finally went to trial and, like I said, was found guilty. She was sentenced to 3 of the major charges, but we do have tons of lying to police and other things like that. The smaller charges she'll be sentenced to in May of this year. So we will see with that. But so far what has taken place is the jury offered her, a little bit of mercy and said she will get life with the option of parole. I believe Megan will be 69 years old when she gets that option. So, many of us won't even live to be that old, right? It's like God willing kind of a thing. So we'll see. So now the judge could also come in and say, okay, great, you got that going on over there. Well, guess what? We're going to stack all these other charges up consecutive against you. And then it's a done deal, right? So that being said, what I wanted to talk about were just final thoughts and some moments of it. And some of these we've hinted on as we've watched along the way. I guess one of the first things is the fact of learning to the extent of what took place to baby Evelyn. My perspective when this took place was the baby was eventually found underneath the dad's trailer or his house or something like that, but a lot of the information was locked down. So once it went to trial and this stuff started coming up and I learned of Evelyn's final resting place, not only in the garbage can, but in that playhouse, I was mortified, okay? I was oh, now I'm not trying to say anything less of that would have been okay, well, that's not too bad. Obviously not, right? But to this level of horror, I was what? So there's that part. Then, and I'm just kind of going through off the top of my head here because I literally could just do a dissertation on this. So I want to do the key things that just pop up. So after that was during the trial when they started showing us drone footage of the property and the actual playhouse, was the realization of, oh, wait a minute, I thought this was gonna be hardcore squalor everywhere and everything looked a mess and this and that. And when they showed us the property where the playhouse, if you remember, here's the playhouse, here's Evelyn's grandmother Omami's house, and then back here was Tommy the dad's house, whatever. But it was a beautiful piece of property. The playhouse was this nice stick-built thing that I think Megan's grandfather built her. So it was oh, there's love here. There's, money, there's resources, there's agency. That part utterly baffled me. This is not to negate that obviously there were issues going on. Clearly, Angela, the biological mother of Megan, had some stuff going on with her. We've seen it play out in the court systems, right? Megan blamed her own mother for this. So Tommy had his stuff going on. Clearly that was taking place, right? But what I'm getting at is it was just a different situation than I expected. Now, in my world, when they said the playhouse, in my mind, I was envisioning one of those Fisher Price kind of plastic playhouses. And I saw it off in these muddy woods, mildew stained, and that's where she had stuffed Evelyn. I had no idea, number one, like I said, it was a real playhouse that somebody built with her. That takes a lot to build that for your grandchild, right? That says a lot. But also that it was right in front of the grandmother's place. It was right there. So to me, I was were you just gonna walk past it and not ever think a thought about it? Also seeing all the baby items that she just threw away. It was when she did whatever she did, and I'm saying whatever she did because we don't technically 100% know how she did it. Whatever she did, but we know where Evelyn ended up, right? So when she did whatever she did to Evelyn, it was almost the switch turned off and I was okay, well, I don't need Evelyn anymore, and I guess I don't need the car seat, and the baby bottles can go too. And that's the part that I was but you just threw these things in there. Did you not think somebody would stumble upon them? That part baffled me. Okay, secondly, the huge bombshell stuff for me was, and this goes twofold. We'll start off with just the blanket umbrella term of, or concept of, how many lies and stories Megan told. We knew that she had a story going here and there. Once the prosecution laid it out all on the table, everywhere possible, I was like, what? I mind blown. Okay. I don't even know if Casey Anthony was this deep entrenched, right? I was like, this is crazy. Everyone that Megan talked to had this huge, long story of lies that she was feeding them. Never thinking that they would catch these or add them up or scratch beneath the surface or anything. Now, another huge thing was learning, well, number one, that we never learned who the real biological father of Evelyn was, but it seems that Megan would utilize this as a weapon against men to try and get them into her grasp, or her web, or whatever you want to call it. Ethan being one of them. Ethan took the stand, and we quickly learned through text messaging and his testimony that this was not the relationship we thought it was. Megan was telling everyone, oh, this is the baby's father. He's got custody. He did this, he did that. And it turns out that wasn't there, right? Also, her willingness to sit here and pull him into the mix when he's living in the barracks, he's in the army. It's like, you're getting the U.S. government pulled into this. Like, did you not think that would not fly? Like that level of just aloofness about it blew my mind. Let's talk about Hunter. Okay. There's a whole string of things. Hunter became very quickly for me in this trial a main character that I was like, I need to see him on the stand. She's blaming him. He rolled over. He took the baby. He did this, okay? So when Hunter's father got on the stand, it was like, Hunter's in a hospital. He's not doing well mentally. This has caused him a lot of stress. He can't testify. Of course, I was like that, I'm not sure about that. I have questions. And if anything, at minimum, because even though I didn't really believe that he did anything at that point, I still was like, this is a lot of reasonable doubt right here. This could work to her benefit. Then when the state produced the Instagram text messages between her and Hunter, and it became very obvious that, number one, he was way more concerned about finding Evelyn than she was, but we also saw Megan's game. And Megan's game was, hey, I'm pregnant with your baby, Hunter. I need to come at least sleep in your truck tonight. I might even come in the house, and I might do this. And you saw her using the pretend baby or whatever at that point as a way in to get to Hunter. Obviously, Hunter had agency. His father had money. There's a lot of things going on there. And it was clear that Hunter was, number one, like, where's the baby, right? Secondly, her lying about her mother taking the baby. In one of the interviews, we saw the mom coming in to talk to Megan, probably in a way of like, where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Even though at this point, Megan had sent the cops on a wild goose chase talking about mom dropped the baby off at a trailer park up in Virginia or someplace, right? So that part was shocking. Then when Tommy, the father, took the stand and he told us that, hey, you know what? She was, meaning Megan and the baby, were staying with me. Megan wouldn't keep her room clean, so she had to go, basically. She was causing troubles at my house with my soon-to-be ex-wife or whatever, however he said it. And it's like, okay, so... okay, well, at this point we hadn't seen pictures of Megan's living condition in the trailer. So Tommy, we learn, owns a trailer park. And I'm like, oh, so that's probably like pretty lucrative cash business there. He does all this other stuff. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that he had money like that. Okay. I figured that, oh, okay. Just in the way of this of, so does Megan, what are we struggling for, right? Now, just because you have money doesn't mean anything. But when we learn that Tommy put Megan in one of the trailers at the trailer park. She's living there for free. Got it fixed up for her. Pays for her car. This is where I start getting like, oh, wait a minute. I thought she had a much different life than this. Then when we see photos of the trailer and we compare those with Tommy, oh, she wanted to keep her room clean. And then we see, I'm not going to even call it squalor, filth, disgust that Megan was living in. And let me rephrase that Evelyn was being forced to live in, but at the hands of her mother. It was shocking. The guy who cleaned the trailer got up there and you could tell the look on his face where he was like, this was the most messed up stuff I've ever seen. Now on to that next level, another level of shock for me was, and I said this in the live chat the other day, I was like, I wouldn't be able to let my dogs walk around that trailer for fear of what if they get into something? What if they eat something bad? What if they get a little, bite a random object and swallow it? Let alone a baby. Gives me goosebumps. I shuddered to think of that poor little thing and her short time here on this earth having to, and I mean, I don't even know what your perception of life is at that, at Evelyn's age, right? But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. Like, she probably doesn't know what squalor is. Like, a baby doesn't understand those concepts at that point. But to know that the perils that she was put into in there, because, for example, little kids are like exploring the world with their hands and stuff in their mouths, and they're little babies, right? You saw they're talking about diapers were rotted into the carpet. They had to gut the place. Just from a picture, you're seeing spoiled milk, dirty pizza boxes. And I'm like, what if the baby got a handful of rotten cheese and ate it? And I'm just thinking, and that's probably being nice. There's probably, God knows, broken glass. Who knows? That part still, what the feeling it gives me? When you see somebody who's doing something on a video where they're balancing or looking over an edge and it makes you go, you're the one doing it. That's how that makes me feel. Even right now in my room, talking about it, that removed from the situation, it takes my breath away like that. It bothers me to that level. And so that was a huge thing for me, because also when we get into the context of, okay, what exactly happened? I'm just like, well, clearly we know where she put Evelyn, right? But what were the events leading up to it? And I'm like, well, she could have taken a nap and the baby gotten into something, and she wakes up to Evelyn choking, and it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to finish this off. I mean, there's a plethora of things, right? Because what I envisioned for poor little Evelyn was Megan at home, just over here doom scrolling. And the second that front door was closed and nobody's watching, oh, it was just whatever. I'm not even paying attention to you. Right? You're forgotten about. And her just toddling around the house, getting into whatever, playing and probably poop, all that kind of stuff. Also learning about the condition. People were saying that she had diaper rash so bad, they'd never even seen anything like it, right? That bad. Imagine the discomfort of that. And you're a little kid who can't do anything about it. You're completely dependent upon the adults around you. So that tells you how little she was being cared for by Megan. Also, we heard from Megan's friends about, oh yeah, we went out to lunch and Evelyn, I could smell her from across the table. She was filthy. She was uncared for. She was a mess. How sad. Again, what a sad existence to be put into for such a short time here, right? So once they got to the closing arguments and whatnot, and they did that, there was a time where they put the camera onto Megan. And for me, and again, this is my limited view of, y'all know how much I've seen Megan, right? I don't know her. So I've seen her as much as y'all have probably on TV and whatnot. For me, that was the first time in all of this that I have seen her worried. And to me, I was just like, oh, she's actually worried. I would have been, right? But I haven't seen that look on her face. It was scared. And I was just like, why are we just now seeing this? Did you think that this was going to go any other way? What? Huh? I wouldn't have even been at trial. I don't know if they offered her a plea deal. I doubt it. But the evidence that we saw was so damning. I'm just like, this is a kind of a no-brainer. That being said, let's talk about what I was not shocked at, how fast the jury came back. Okay, now if you didn't watch it, what happened is they gave the case to the jurors. They went away for several hours, basically came back the next morning, and almost immediately they were like, we're ready to go. And so I feel like what they could have done, and I don't know at the time of this recording what they did exactly. We haven't heard from anybody, but it was almost like they went back there. They took a poll. They had a ton of paperwork to fill out. Maybe they filled it out and said, let's sleep on it and make sure. We went back home. We came back. Maybe they finished filling the paperwork out and they were done. Okay. Guilty on all charges. So more things I was not surprised by was guilty on all charges. Okay. Now again, in this day and age, you never know which way things are going to go. And if the state had not been able to really clear Hunter's name, I was waiting for maybe her to get off on some of the big charges, or maybe of like the lesser ones and whatnot, right? So there's that. Now we move on to sentencing, because obviously these big charges, the 3M charges, she's going to immediately get sentenced for these, and the jury has to come back and recommend something. Before we talk about that, for Megan to have her bio mom, her foster mom, and her grandmother to get up there says a lot, that these people are willing to get up there and put their faces out there, and still speak and be like, hey, here's this. I mean, at the end of the day, especially to like Angela and the bio mom and Mommy, the grandmother, I mean, that's still that's their daughter, their granddaughter. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be that. The foster mom was the sweetest lady. My God. God bless people like that are working with kids in the foster care system, that you can just get this sense of warmth from them. And she got up there talking about, well, Megan came to me at 17 pregnant with hair matted and lice and this and that, and she painted this picture, and I felt like the jurors probably, if anything, put weight into what she said. Granted, I also think that Megan probably knew she was an easy mark for Megan, if that makes sense, versus her family, because they knew her and probably were similar to her in many ways. But nonetheless, if the juror was going to put any weight in anything, I feel like it could have been the foster mother's testimony of, look, she was a decent person at some point, to me at least, right? And seemed to come from a very troubled background. Seeing Megan cry over the sentence, I was like, what did you think? If anything, you got the lighter version of it. They gave you the option of parole. Mind you, Megan will be almost 70 when that comes. Again, if she lives that long. But just that part where Megan seemed surprised over it, I was like, okay, now let's kind of rewind a little bit here. The TV interviews. Yes, Megan's were shocking that she did them. They always are when we see these. Think Chris Watts, think Susan Smith, think Diane Downs, these very infamous faces and whatnot of the, I just want him home. I just want him home. And you immediately know, like, this is not going to end well, right? Once the evidence came out and we saw what was going on behind the scenes, literally, that could have happened moments before in an interview, before she did the news interview. So like doing a police interrogation thing and then going out to the news. The level and audacity of lies that she was telling then that would immediately contradict what she had just told police was otherworldly to me. To piece all that together from this view now, I was like, again, what were you thinking? And I guess, it's like you weren't thinking. Like, there's no way you could be thinking, right? I mean, there's no logic to that. That's the part that's shocking about it, right? Is there's no logic to it. So learning the depths of her lies, and this part always haunts me right here in the interviews, and you'll know, we've talked about it several times on this channel, when the news reporter's like, is there anything the community can be doing to help you look for Evelyn? No. I mean, they can keep, doing their tips and stuff. And I was like, whoa, that knee-jerk reaction of no, sends chills to my spine. Also, all the stuff in the interview, her smiling and talking about what a wonderful baby Evelyn was. She's hitting all her marks. Oh, this, that, and the other, and then it's like, but she's in a garbage can in your playhouse, and you know this. And you're smiling and giggling. I'm speechless. Let's talk about the evidence of after she has disposed of Evelyn. She's running off with Hunter. She's doing this. She's doing that. Again, we saw very similar things with Casey Anthony. Going to the nightclubs, going and doing this, going and doing that. It's like, okay, I'm done here, right? So that level of just, I guess, evilness was shocking to me in this. Overall, the judge locking that courtroom down. I don't want it. No jurors being seen. No this, no that. Someone was arrested, some camera person on the last day because they showed for the jurors. The courtroom photographer, he reprimanded on day one for using flash. I mean, he kept a tight show going, right? And good to him for doing that. The state prosecutors were amazing. I felt like by sealing everything up, it really allowed the evidence to speak for itself in the courtroom, right? And for me, when it came forth, I was like, so blown away by the evidence that came out, just in the context of being like, oh, okay, like I knew that I got a bad vibe from the TV interview, but I didn't know this was the context to it. It's even worse. Oh, I knew Evelyn's remains were finally found, and it's like basically at Megan's house kind of a thing. I didn't know the context of how grotesque the disposal was, how careless it was, how evil it was, right? Looking back on one of the days we were live streaming the trial on the podcast channel, and I was like kind of stalking Megan's Facebook, all the like, you know, mommy posts, all the pictures that she posted of Evelyn. My baby's gonna be this month old. She's growing up so fast. And you're like, but then just a light switch flipped at some point, and it was, oh, okay. And so I guess, you know, to sum it up, looking at something like this where I was like, wait a minute, is the real Megan the one that threw her away and went on with her life? Or is the real Megan the one posting the pictures and was had her glued to her hip every time everyone saw her? You know, this, that, and the other. You know, I feel like what took place is that she was a trinket. You know, Megan's a young mother. You're still growing up yourself, right? I mean, I'm not going to hold that against anybody. However, I think with Megan, once Evelyn became a true, like, oh, she's moving around. Oh, she's like not just a tiny little baby, not just a little trinket on my wrist. It's work now. And when she saw Hunter, it was, oh, well, here we go. New life. New wife, new life, here I come, right? I almost wonder if she tried to use, well, I mean, we can see she did it with Ethan. It's like she weaponized Evelyn to try and get with men, and when that didn't work, she saw a new in with Hunter, but she was going to need to have a fresh kid with him. And she probably didn't want a second child. So she was going to do what she had to do. And in her world, that was the unthinkable. So this trial really blew me away in that way. This was just a rough one to sit there and watch her just sitting at the thing, crying, pretending to cry, whatever, I don't know, right? So that's it. Those are the key things that just literally jumped to my mind, like pretty much unscripted, that were just the wow moments for me. I'm curious to see what yours were as well. So if you could drop that in the comments, and well, you're down there, drop some sofas off for myself, Rosco and Spirit, Bo and Luke, who are playing over there in their little flannel play pad thing, and then the rest of the Sofa Squad too. So I'll have a place to sit, talk about this case, all the other cases we talk about here at the Sofa Squad, and until we meander on down there to do that, I'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.